This is CJ with the GOAT Sports Talk coming again, of course, with the big news as we heard on Saturday that the extension of James Harden with the Houston Rockets has been extended for a few more years at the tune of his total of the next 6 years of $228 million. Okay, the last year it looking like it's going to be around $47 million in that deal. Which would lock him up all the way, I believe, to the 2023 season. So we're talking about a lot of money. And I actually have to say that the Rockets it was a good idea for them to do that. One, James Harden is still very much in his prime and will be in his prime still at the end of that contract. So why not lock up a guy who is easily probably a top 5 to 7 player in the league, depending on how much y'all look at the situation that he did in that game where he just basically literally did not show up. I have another reason for that as to why that happened. And, it's up to speculation as to why that occurred. I do believe that, at the end of the day, whether you believe that it was something he did intentionally or unintentionally, and you believe that he was somehow scared of the moment, however you want to feel, that James Harden is still a top talent in the league. Let's just talk about it from two perspectives. One, he's one of the top shot creators in the league. Now, his turnovers were very high, no doubt about it, and that's expected for a person who moved into that point guard position after being primarily a shooting guard that can create for others. He was put into that role to be that full time. And to be honest, his decision making is not the best. Although I do believe that James Harden does have a high basketball IQ, I just think that at times, because the game is so easy to him because of his high talent level, that I think sometimes his concentration lapses because his talent is so immense. His ability to get to the rim at will is one of the best in the league. His Euro step is up there with the best ever in the league, after Ginobili and Dwayne Wade. I mean, it's up there with those guys, if not better and more consistent. So you're talking about a guy who's also a very good shooter. He's not just a streaky guy. He's a very good shooter. He's a guy that you just do not want to give open shots to because he can hit him, and he's just a tough cover. And with Chris Paul now coming, is going to, take away the ball from James Harden in those times when he shouldn't have the ball, when they need to control tempo, when they want to definitely not turn the ball over. You get one of the most intelligent point guards ever. I mean, Chris Paul is an absolute genius with the ball. He makes great decisions, and he does not make many mistakes. It's very hard for him to make mistakes because he's just that good. So now you're probably going to get a more efficient player who will still average maybe 7 to 8 assists a game, even with Chris Paul. But now you're not making him force himself to have to make plays all the time. And you get this guy in his prime over the next 6 years, and you lock him up at least at the bare minimum. If for some reason Chris Paul does decide to leave at the end of this season, because remember, he did opt in, and he is going to be an unrestricted free agent at the end of the season. They didn't even give him he didn't get no extra deal. At least at the bare minimum, you lock a guy that can still attract free agents and is still in his prime in the event that Chris Paul leaves. A player that comes there knows, hey, if I come to Houston, I know I'm going to play with James Harden, who is a perennial all-star in a very tough Western Conference loaded with talent. And I know I can go there, and this is a guy I can battle with day in, day out, and in a playoff run. So at the end of the day, everybody that's getting on the Rockets for signing James Harden to that deal, what are you saying about Gordon Hayward that just signed for a little less money, who is not even he's definitely nowhere near the talent and player of James Harden, nor probably will ever be. He might be a very good player, but I just don't see him being that great. I do see his offensive output increasing, and I do expect that they want him to probably score between 24 to 26 points a game and maybe take a little bit of the burden off of Isaiah Thomas, who's going to probably drop down a little bit lower as well. But at the end of the day, James Harden is definitely a better talent, and he's definitely better. He's definitely going to be good barring injury over the next 6 years. Yes, it's guaranteed, but that's the NBA contracts for you at the end of the day. So to me, great idea for them to lock him up, to guarantee that they at least have one guy that is there. He's box office. He's loved in Houston. He loves Houston. He's seen a lot of money, man, since leaving Oklahoma City. And there's no telling, it's very obvious that the way that Oklahoma City was operating, that they weren't going to give him this type of deal. And Lex Alexander of the Houston Rockets, the owner of the Houston Rockets, he's not a cheap guy. He's fielded teams in the past. Look back a few years ago when they had, a lot of very good players that they were paying a good amount of money for, and they didn't care about no luxury tax. Whenever they're in a position to win championships, one thing about Lex Alexander, he's willing to spend the money and go over the cap and keep good players, and so at the end of the day, man, I like the move. I don't understand why people don't like it. Just tell me how many other players are worthy of that type of deal in this climate of the NBA where role players are getting 20 to 25 mil a year. I mean, you got guys that probably wouldn't crack the All-Star team in the Western Conference getting paid $30 million a year. So at the end of the day, it's somewhat of a bargain when you factor in the megastar that James Harden is for the Houston Rockets and for the NBA. He is right now the top face for Adidas basketball. It's no longer Derrick Rose. It's not Andrew Wiggins as of right now, even though Andrew Wiggins got to deal with them. It's not Damian Lillard, even though Damian Lillard has a deal with them. So you got to understand, even for Adidas and for the brand and for the commercialization of James Harden, since he's come to the Rockets, it's a very big deal to lock up a guy that's always going to be out there in ads. He's always going to be on primetime TV. And when you look at it for the Rockets, it puts them out in the forefront to be marketed to the free agents and to market themselves as a franchise globally, because they're going to be in primetime games, in part because of James Harden. And that was because James Harden was here without Chris Paul. How much more if they have Chris Paul, and potentially if they are able to get Carmelo Anthony with some of the role players that they got on their team that they signed. They have a very nice squad that can go 9 players deep, and they would have potentially 3 All-Stars or All-Star caliber players in the Western Conference. That's exactly, at least at the bare minimum, what you need if you want to make it to the Western Conference Finals at this particular point. And word is, there's moves being made, which we'll discuss in another video. So hopefully, this was something that, maybe if you feel any differently, feel free to comment, and please like and subscribe and share. And, that's pretty much, we're out.